Hello, welcome to part 11 in my beast study. When you started listening to these videos, did you think there would be 11 parts to this? I sure didn't. And let me just tell you right now, I'm just barely scratching the surface. So if we can make it out of this study with 30 videos total, I think we'll be doing good, but who knows? But thank you for sticking with me this long. I think it's going to be worth it because I think once we can get as many details as possible down, we can start maybe not figuring out who the beast is, but we can at least start putting out reasonable candidates, right? And start keeping our feelers out for who this guy might be, and not just placing the moniker of beast on someone we don't like, okay? Like, we want to come at this as, what do you call it? Exegetical as possible. I don't know. Systematic as possible. So anyways, today, as promised, I'm going to continue making the list of beastly details in Revelation 17. We're actually going to finish our list from 17, 19, and 20. And that's all the rest of the beast details that we find in Revelation. So we're going to go ahead and list those out. But before we do that, you know me, I'm always looking at Revelation 9. And I came across something else in terms of Revelation 9. Remember that Revelation 9 is this opening of the bottomless pit. I am wondering if this is connected to CERN creating the internet and opening the bottomless pit, allowing for spirit demonic entities to have a much more close relationship with man. So now we're moving from just the spiritual realm into the digital realm, which will eventually, I think, culminate in the physical realm, especially when we're talking about in terms of a 6G network. Remember, we looked at that a few videos ago. The 6G network is, the intent of 6G is trying to connect biology with artificial intelligence. So I think that's going to actually bring all that stuff in. But you know me, and I keep coming back to verse 5 of Revelation 9 because of this time that we're given of 5 months that these locusts torment humanity that don't have the seal of God on their foreheads. And I keep wondering if this means an actual length of time of 5 months, or if the word month might mean something else. And remember, I actually brought up the fact that the word month here has to do with the lunar cycle versus our solar calendar month. These are lunar months that have like a 28 to 30 day cycle. And remember, the pagan understanding of the lunar month and the new moon is a generation, right? Like the new moon signifies infancy, and then as the moon waxes to a full moon, it's referring to life, and then as it wanes into the disappearance of the moon, that signifies old age and death. So to the pagans, the month signified a generation, and that's why I'm wondering if we look at a pagan interpretation of 5 months, would this have to do with 5G technology? Because 5G technology is pagan. It's certainly not Christian. I mean, and I understand that Christians may use it, but it's definitely not like a godly system per se. But are these locusts going to come through that 5G technology? Well, I came across another possible interpretation of 5th generation, 5 generation, just recently. Oh, before we do that, I wanted to point this out. Revelation 9 talks about humanity being tormented, but not being able to die, but wishing they could die. And I just wanted to point this out, that this is a recent study extracted in January 2021 for the number of people taking psychiatric drugs in the United States. Notice the number. There's almost 77 million people in America taking psychiatric drugs. And just over 6 million of them are children under 17 years old. So pretty distressing numbers there, that mental health is a big problem in America. And I'm just wondering if all these things are connected. But also in terms of that, so I found something else that has to do with a fifth generation of something that has just recently been talked about in like alternate media, are these generations of warfare. Okay, so far there are currently 5 generations of warfare. Just to briefly go over them. First generation warfare was back in the day when you and your enemy would kind of set up a day and a time and a place, and all your guys would be dressed the same and all their guys would be dressed the same, and you say ready, go, and then you guys run at each other with broadswords, and just whichever team can wipe out more soldiers on the other side, that team wins. That's first generation warfare. Second generation warfare is kind of after the introduction of guns, because guns really were a game changer in terms of combat. And then third generation warfare is more like a stealthy, strategic, tactical use of technology in warfare. So this is kind of more like down and dirty fighting. You don't necessarily tell people where you are. You can like hide behind places and attack people from the rear and stuff like that. Third generation warfare. Fourth generation warfare is more decentralized, meaning this is where you have armies that are not necessarily state driven. This kind of brings in like the whole terrorism idea, Hezbollah and ISIS and places that are not necessarily state funded, but they still rain down warfare on innocent people, and they combat civilians in order to fight against a state that they don't like. So that's more like terrorism. Each one of these progressively gets more and more psychological, ending with fifth generation warfare, which is almost entirely psychological. So the idea with fifth generation warfare is that instead of using weapons and wiping people out, what you do is you destroy a culture from within and use tactics such as social engineering. You do what you can in the education, media, and entertainment systems in order to destroy society from within. We can definitely see that coming through things like CRT and pushing LGBTQ agendas, where we are tearing down the family system, the traditional family system that society is structured upon. Every strong civilization has strong families at its core, because God set up the family system and God knew what he was doing. That's why. But anyways, the way this fifth generation warfare is, you try to destroy a culture, a country, by feeding them psychology whereby the society caves in on itself. So instead of firing weapons at them, you just let them destroy themselves. So you destroy them by socially engineering their culture, by plaguing them with misinformation and disinformation, and cyber attacks. That's another tactic. Cyber attacks having to do with not just hacking your money and your accounts, but also stealing your data, stealing your identity, hacking into your elections, things like that, cyber attacks. And then also, we've talked about artificial intelligence, but clearly artificial intelligence left without artificial intelligence being created by people without morals is only just going to be headed for destruction. Then we have like autonomous systems meaning these are systems where you don't need a human being to operate them. So what this is doing is replacing humanity, like all the jobs will be replaced with robots. Therefore, then people have no livelihood, and then they either starve or they commit suicide. Okay, so fifth generation is purely, as Daniel Abbott is the guy who kind of came up with it, it's a war of information and perception. It's psychological warfare. Maybe you've heard that term. Incidentally, if you've never heard of psychological warfare or fifth generation warfare, if all this stuff is new to you, or especially if you don't think it's being waged on you, then it means it's working. That's what that means, okay? So the beauty of psychological warfare is when you realize that it's happening to you and you can realize the tactics that they're using, then it doesn't have an effect on you. But if you have no idea that it's happening, then you are literally a victim of it. So anyways, that just makes me think about these 5 months. Is this talking about fifth generation warfare, possibly, and the fact that people are tormented because they're buying into agendas and narratives that are actually destructive to humanity. And so the torment is they're buying into a lie, and because that lie doesn't hold up, then their intrinsic value that they put on themselves in regards to those agendas that they're buying into, because those two things are completely counterintuitive, it creates a torment, a psychological torment, in which people wish they could die, but they can't, okay? And if you go back to, I can't remember, it was part 5, part 6, where I talked about the locusts and the crowns like gold and all this stuff having to do with an internet network. I still think that all those things are possible. I'm still just trying to figure out exactly what 5 months means. And again, I keep coming back to the fact that probably 5 months means 5 months. I'm just wondering if it has to do with fifth generation warfare and or 5G technology. I think all those things might be connected to it. Who knows? Anyways, I just found that out recently, and so I wanted to share that with you. Let's come back to Revelation 17, and let's go ahead and finish out our list about the beast. You'll notice here that in Revelation 17, I have some more words here that are highlighted in purple. That's because all of these words are referring to this woman who is known as a whore. And there's a reason that I colored all the words purple. We're actually in a subsequent video, we're going to go through a list of this woman and who she is. So just like we've been detailing this yellow beast, we also need to make a video about the pink beast, who's the little horn of Daniel 7 and the second beast of Revelation. But we'll do all those things in due time. Let's go ahead and make our list of the rest of this yellow beast details, and then we'll come back and we'll do all the rest of the stuff. Oh, guys, it is so hard to talk about these things because literally, I've said this before, but it's like I need to talk to you about like 5 things at once, but I can only show you one thing at a time. So it's so confusing trying to figure out what do I need to say next. Like some of these videos just write themselves, but videos like this one, I'm like, oh my goodness, literally, what do I talk about that I can build upon next time? But, you know, I need to say these 3 things at one time. Anyways, let's just go ahead and get this list, taken down, and then we can deal with the other stuff later. All right, so Revelation 17. There came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Okay, so we have this angel. He's one of the 7 angels coming down to John, showing him this vision about a whore who sits upon many waters. As we've said in many, many, many videos before, these many waters are the multitudes, nations, and tongues. This is also the sea that the 4 beasts of Daniel 7 come out of. Hold on a second, I have to turn this first off. Okay, now I can come back here, okay. All right, so this whore is sitting upon the many waters. The word sitteth means to reside. So she's not just sitting on, she's residing and dwelling upon humanity. Okay? She's in an oppressive way, I would argue. The word whore here means an idolatress. It literally means idolater or harlot. Okay? The reason it means idolater and harlot is because to God, an idolater is someone who worships someone other than him. In other words, you are fornicating with a false god. And so therefore, he equates idolatry with fornication. And that's why this woman is referred to as a whore. She is a false religion. Okay? So people who she sits upon and people that allow her to sit on them are partaking in her fornication, which we'll see in the next verse. Okay, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. All right, we're going to get to what all this means later, but right now we're looking at the beast. So let's move on. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman. This is the same woman, but instead of sitting on the many waters, this time she sits upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Okay, this is not just any beast. This is not our beast, but this is the beast. And the reason I know that is because he has 7 heads and 10 horns. So the angel's making that distinction so that we know that this scarlet beast is that same beast. So let's go ahead and add these details into our list in Revelation 17. So first of all, we find out that he is scarlet. Second of all, we find out that the whore will sit on it, and that's going to be said again later. He's full of blasphemous names. He has 7 heads, which we find out later are 7 mountains. And he has 10 horns, which we find out later are 10 kings. Spoiler alert. All right, so those are some details from that. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of the abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, and the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Again, we're going to come back and talk about all of this in great detail, but we're just right now looking at these verses in terms of the beast. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. So here we see that the beast is carrying her. Okay, the whore will sit on it. That's the second time this is being said. And then the second time that we see that it has 7 heads, and the second time that we see that it has 10 horns. All right, now moving on. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. Okay, so right now we're just writing these details down. I'm going to come back and tell you what I think that this verse means, but that will be in a later video. So please come back for that, because I think I have a really not cool idea, but I mean, none of this is cool, right? It's cool that Jesus is coming back. The beast is not cool, but I think that maybe I have an answer to what this verse might mean. Anyways, just come back for it, okay? All right, so for now, though, we're going to write down the details that we see. So we see that the beast was and is not. We see that he comes out of the bottomless pit. We've heard that before. We've also heard that he goes to perdition, because the word perdition means destruction. Remember, this was said in Daniel 7, that the beast comes and he destroys the world. Remember that? He's a beast of destruction, great destruction. Okay, we've also seen before in past verses that those who dwell on the earth wonder and marvel and worship him, especially those that their names were not written in the book of life. If your name is written in the book of life, then you don't need to be worshiping anybody, okay? But especially not the beast. And then we see again that the beast was, is not, and yet is. Okay, so let's take our details down. The beast is, was, and is not. All right. He comes from the bottomless pit. He destroys stuff. This is going to be said again. And the unsaved will worship him. Okay. Yeah. The unsaved will worship him. All right. Now moving on. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Again. Come back for a later video. I'm going to tell you what I think this verse means. But for now, we're just going to take down the details. 7 heads are 7 mountains. Okay, so the 7 heads are 7 mountains. So that's being said again. All right? And the woman is sitting, this is important to note. We can go ahead and talk about this. The woman is sitting on 2 things. Okay? She's sitting on the waters in verse 1. She's sitting on the beast in verse 3. But then here in verse 9, we find out what part of the beast that she's specifically sitting on. She's sitting on these 7 heads. Okay? So remember, because the beast has 7 heads, and she's sitting on the beast, but specifically she's sitting on the 7 head part of the beast. Okay, got it? Does that make sense? I hope it does. All right, so moving on. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, 1 is, the other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. Now you will notice that I did not highlight anything in yellow in this verse, and there's a reason for that. So please come back later, and I will explain to you what I think is going on here, because I've heard some people say that the 7 heads are the 7 mountains, which are the 7 kings, and I don't think that's right. Okay? So come back and I'll explain that later, but for now, let's move on. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. All right, so we learn here, again, that the beast was and is not, so that's being said a 3rd time, is, was, and is not, okay? He is the 8th. Okay, this is important to note. He's the 8th of these 7 kings. These are, okay, I'll just go ahead and give you a spoiler alert. These 7 kings are former kings before the beast comes on the scene. So I don't think that the 7 kings have anything to do with the 7 mountains. So I think that this verse is kind of an aside, that the angel's just telling him the pattern that the beast, the 8th king, the beast, is coming. He's coming in the pattern of those 7 former kings, okay? And he goes into perdition, destruction. We know what that is. Okay, so let's go ahead and put some stuff down. He comes to the bottom. Okay, he's the 8th king in the pattern of 7 former kings. We also see that he goes to perdition, destroys stuff. And we also see, what was the other thing? He is of the 7. Yeah. Okay, that's all. That's all from that verse. Okay. He is, was not. He's the 8th of a former 7, and he goes into perdition. All right. Now, the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. All right. So we see some more details here. Incidentally, the rest of this chapter is going to be in reference to these 10 kings. Specifically, the part of the beast that is these 10 kings. Remember in Daniel 4, it says that the 4th beast is unlike the former 3 in the fact that the 4 beasts come out of the sea of humanity, but the 4th beast specifically is a kingdom, as opposed to the former 3 beasts, which are kings. Okay, so you have the beast coming as an 8th king, an 8th human king, but he also has these 10 horns, which are 10 kings that come with him. Okay, so let's write down these details. The 10 horns, and actually we actually need to say, this was said 3 times. I need to correct that. Okay, so 10 horns are 10 kings. All right, so 10 kings that we've learned in this video have no kingdom yet, which is weird because they're 10 kings. How can 10 kings not have a kingdom? Like literally, don't you have to have a kingdom to be a king? Or is it that these are 10 men who wish that they were kings? They have not been voted or appointed, but the beast is going to actually appoint them. So maybe these are 10 opportunist human beings who are looking for a kingdom, and because of their own opportunism, the beast brings them on board to his beastly kingdom. Anyways, They don't have kingdoms yet whenever the beast comes on the scene, I guess. But they receive power from the beast as kings 1 hour. And so let's look at this. Okay, so they have no kingdom. They receive authority and power. That's what power means. The word power means authority. They receive their authority from the beast, and they reign 1 hour with him. Now, this is really interesting. 1 hour, this word doesn't necessarily mean hour. It could also mean a season. Okay, so it's kind of weird that these 10 guys would reign with the beast for just an hour of time. But maybe that's true. But I kind of wonder if this might mean that they reign 1 season with him. So remember that the beast, this first beast, is going to be on the scene for probably the whole 7 years of tribulation, but definitely the first 3.5, if that's the way we're supposed to interpret the time. So these 10 kings may just be like friends of his, and then right at the end, before he gets that mortal head wound, they reign with him. I don't know exactly, but we're being told this, and I believe it because we're told this, but I don't know exactly what it means. All right. Oh, can I pause right here and go? I realized I didn't say something that I needed to say. Right back in this verse, when we're talking about the beast that was and is not, and even he is. So he was, he is not, and is. And again, remember this was said back in verse 8. He is, he was not, and yet is. I meant to say this, that this is actually a mockery of Yahweh, because Yahweh is the I am, right? And the word the name Yahweh means not just I am, but it also means I was. It means I will be. It means I am that I am, meaning nobody created me. I have just always been. And another way to say that is I will never not be, nor has there ever been a time that I wasn't. Okay? So that is what Yahweh means. I am. He's the only being that can actually say I am in and of himself. Okay? Literally the rest of us can say I am, but we have to follow it up with another noun. Like I am a teacher, I am a construction worker, I am a, child, I am a parent. Okay? Who was it? Was it Gertrude Stein who said, I think, therefore I am? And that was kind of almost a blasphemous statement because she said the words I am. But you'll even notice that even in that statement, the being, the I aming of that statement is contingent upon thinking. Like God doesn't have to think because God created thinking, right? God is. That's probably the deepest statement you could ever say, that God is. Like you could mine the depths of that statement for the rest of eternity and not come to the end of it because it's so deep. Anyway, the beast is coming in a mockery of I am because he is, he was, but he is not. Okay? So notice that. I have more to say about this, and that's what I'm going to say in subsequent videos. But I just wanted to point that out because I was thinking about it in terms of another mockery that the beast has, which is that these kings have no power except for what's given to them by the beast. But then in verse 13, it says, they all have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. So they receive their power from the beast, and then they give their power and strength to the beast. This is a mockery of the fact that the saints of God, one day, the saints of God only receive power through God, and then at the end of days, God rewards them with crowns of glory that they then throw back at the feet of the throne of Christ, or the throne of the Father, right? They throw back their crowns of glory to God. So This is a mockery of God's system, that these 10 kings receive their power from the beast, but yet they give their power back to the beast. It's a mockery of the fact that God gives his power to his saints, and then the saints use the power of God to then glorify God. Okay? And you'll see that this system doesn't work out. It all falls apart because it's not grounded in anything. Like, literally, the power of the enemy is God's power that is adulterated through humanity, right? Like, we are created in the image of God. The only reason that a demon would have power over you is because you give that demon power. Otherwise, the demon would be impotent. He would have no power over you if you filled yourself with the Holy Spirit, okay? So anyways, that's just a little side note. Let's see. Let's add to our list. So they reign 1 hour with him. The 10 kings share the beast's mind. So they have this hive mind together. Then the 10 kings give the beast their power and authority and strength back, right? The 10 kings receive the authority from the beast, and then they give it back to the beast. All right, then verse 14, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is the Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. I hope that that these words denote you. Are you called, chosen, and faithful? Please be called, chosen, and faithful. I would urge you to consider being that. And call on the name of Jesus Christ, because he is Lord of lords and King of kings. But anyways, let's look at this verse in terms of the details about the beast. So the 10 kings, along with the beast, are making war with the Lamb. But guess what? The Lamb overcomes them. Ha, 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 ha. So anyways, the 10 kings and the beast make war with the Lamb, who overcomes them. All right, there's our details there. All right, now, we've seen this verse a billion times. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. Okay, we've talked about that 14,000 times. Let's move on to verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. You guys, this verse and this verse are so important. Please come back to one of my next videos, because I think there's stuff in these verses to unpack that we're not really thinking about. But for now, let's write down the details. The 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. The one thing I want you to notice before I kind of flesh this out with my meager human brain in a subsequent video, at least look at this, okay? You have the beast in yellow who is acting against the whore. Wait a second. Aren't all these guys working for the devil? You know what this tells me? And this is actually kind of a thought that God gave me back in 2020, that God says, I am, right? God, when he makes a statement about himself, he says, I am. And if he follows that up with, I am the way, the truth, and the life, or I am love, anytime he follows that up, it's always some pure, holy perfection. But he doesn't have to follow it up with, I am the way, the truth, and the life. He can just say, I am. Okay? God only ever does one thing all the time. He is truth all the time. In him is no shadow of turning. Okay? He is who he is all the time. But the devil can split into factions. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to explain this more in a future video, okay? The devil can do different things. So anyways, let's look at this verse and see what details we can write down. The 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast shall hate the whore. Okay, so that means that the 10 horns hate Mystery Babylon. That's the name of the whore, okay? They make the Mystery Babylon desolate, naked, eat her, and burn her. And then in verse 17, for God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of God shall be fulfilled. Okay, so this is the thing about the enemy, is they think that they're operating in and of their own understanding and volition. And literally God is the one putting it in their hearts to destroy Mystery Babylon. Okay? He's actually using the beast of Satan to destroy the whore of Satan. You know, he's actually making the enemy turn on himself a little bit. That doesn't make the beast a good guy at all, but it's just like God is so sovereign over everything that he actually uses Satan's pawns against themselves. Okay? So anyways, he puts it in their hearts. Like you might look at this and say that they all have one mind and that this is the devil's mind. But literally in this verse, God is admitting that he's the one who made them all agree and have one mind. Okay? All right. So let's put this into our list. The 10 kings unknowingly fulfill God's plan in agreement with a hive mind. And the 10 kings give the beast their kingdoms until God feels like ending it all. Okay, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. All right, and then we end this chapter with, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. And again, we're going to come back to that later. Revelation 18 is going to talk more about Mystery Babylon and what's going to happen to her and what it looks like when she falls. And we're going to come back to that whenever we make our list about Mystery Babylon. Revelation 19 is talking about how God has judged the whore and has destroyed her forever. Then it talks about the saints worshiping God, and it describes God a little bit, what he looks like, and he sends out angels. Okay, so anyways, here in verse 19 of Revelation 19, we get to see the beast get his comeuppance. Okay, so verse 19, it says, and I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. Remember in Revelation 16, where we saw the beast doing all these signs and wonders and gathering the armies of earth together for Armageddon? So now we're coming back to that scene. Okay, so we're kind of jumping around in a timeline, but verse 19, that's where we are right there. So this is the Battle of Armageddon. And so let's go ahead and write some details down from this. So Revelation 19, beast gathered with the armies to fight against God. And, the beast is gathered with the armies to fight against God. And, okay, that's what we learned there. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into a lake of fire burning with brimstone. Okay, so we have the yellow beast here. He's being taken, and with him the false prophet. So the beast, the word taken here means captured. All right, so the beast is captured along with the false prophet. And then we also see the details about the mark of the beast and those who worship the beast. There's the mark of the beast and the image of worship. All right, but both the false prophet and the beast are cast alive into the lake of fire burning with brimstone. And that's what I highlighted this part in orange because it's a combination of both the pink and the yellow. So both of them are cast into the lake of fire in Revelation 19. So that's, it's always crazy to hear. There's that passage in the Old Testament where there was that faction of Israelites that weren't following God, and God opened up the earth and they fell into the earth in an earthquake, and they were cast alive into Sheol. Like, oh my goodness, could you imagine? Like, it's bad enough to die and go to hell, but could you imagine being cast alive into hell? Just, I'm so glad I don't even have to deal with that. But anyway, all right. Now, Revelation 20, and this is the last time we ever see the beast. Revelation 20 is talking about the 1,000-year reign of Christ. But first, what happens is God binds up Satan for 1,000 years, and he casts him into the bottomless pit. And then we see this verse, I saw thrones, and they sat upon him, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. And they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. So the part that we see about the beast is that thing again about worshiping the image and receiving his mark upon his foreheads and hands. All right, so Revelation 20. Those who don't worship the beast's image or get the mark reign with Christ for 1,000 years. So that is that. All right, and then what happens is after the 1,000 years, Satan is let out of his prison, and then he goes around wreaking havoc, and he tries to pull together another, like, kind of almost a second Armageddon sort of thing with Gog and Magog and this battle, and then God's like, no, the end, you're done. And he ends up taking Satan and casting him into the lake of fire, which we just saw in Revelation 19. That's where the beast and the false prophet already are. So in Revelation 20, we see that the beast will be in hell before the devil. So that's interesting. Okay, so those are all the details that we have. We've finally finished the details about the yellow beast guy, who is the fourth beast of Daniel 7, the first beast of Revelation. We finished all the details about the beast. Now we need to go back and explain exactly what some of these confusing parts of Revelation 7. I'm going to give you some of my theories as to what I think is going on here. And then we also need to make a list about the Whore of Babylon and start drawing some conclusions about that. All right, so please come back because I think some of those arguments that I'm going to make are rather compelling. Thank you for watching, and please have a blessed day. Please submit to Christ. It's totally worth it, guys. Bye.